You're good? Okay, we're now streaming and recording, so we're good to go. So I'll call this peer committee meeting to order at 3 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining us. I know it's been a while since we've got together, but hopefully we can find a path forward and get a few things done over the next term of council. So I need to have a motion to adopt the agenda, and the agenda should be adopted as circulated. Who would like to move that and second it? So
it's Julie, I'll move.
Okay, so Julie, thank you. So any errors or omissions or anything to add? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Okay, so I'll ask for any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. If anybody has an interest to declare, please do so now. I don't see any at this point. Next item is adoption of the minutes, and the motion reads that the minutes of the peer committee meeting of October 28th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Mover and a seconder for that. Okay. And seconder? We'll have Donna. Thank you. Any errors or omissions in the minutes? I know it's been a long time since that meeting, so it's hard to remember. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay, we don't have any delegations or presentations. And as far as business, we're going to do a peer committee overview presentation, which I believe our illustrious treasurer will be doing that. And hopefully that'll provide some insight. And then we can have further discussion about where we'll go from here.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
With no, everybody has to use their microphones when they speak, because only the people, that's the only way the people who are on the Zoom call can hear us. So if you're looking to make a comment, please raise your hand and I'll recognize you as chair. Thanks.
Okay, thanks again. So I'm just going to go over a quick overview of some different aspects of what's happened over the last, I guess, year, in the sense I'm going to just do a quick overview of 2022 year-end results. A quick look at the 2023 budget, a little bit about budget process and asset management. Just going to touch on facility booking process because we've made some changes, update to our communications, and then we just want to chat about our peer group structure here. So the 2022 year-end results, we're actually going to be bringing this financial statements to council May 1st to committee of the whole. Right now, we're looking at a small surplus, less than 1% in terms of our budget to actual reporting. So it's been, I think, overall a good year. We've had some significant overages in insurance, diesel, fuel, other operating costs that were not anticipated, but we're able to make some savings in other areas that allowed us to come in quite close to our 14 point some $1 million budget. So we're currently working on a document management project that Megan, the clerk, is spearheading. So we have a new document management system we're trying to implement, which will be very helpful in terms of managing our records and being able to keep track and delete them when we need to, also be able to access them more efficiently. So that project's well underway. For 2022, we budgeted conservatively for casino revenue, still wary, I guess, of COVID-19 impacts and what that might look like on the casino. So we only budgeted 400,000. We actually received just over $1 million, but that allowed us to actually pay for a fire pumper truck that was purchased, and we didn't have to borrow to fund that project, which is what we had anticipated at budget. So we were happy with that. We did have a community grant program with a budget of 125,000, which was all allocated, including a small amount that went to cemeteries near the end of the year. And the private road grants were also distributed. So for 2023 budget overview, we did get a council approval on a gross municipal budget of about 15.3 million. And that equates to a levy requirement, meaning what we actually have to levy through property taxes of about 11.3 million. Our tax rate continues to be the second lowest in the county. And that's our rate there, which equates to about a $19 increase on $100,000 of assessment. So we have a significant capital budget for 2023, including the Ivy Lee Wharf, a new fire station in Sealy's Bay, another fire pumper truck. And the fire pumper trucks need to be replaced. It's regulated that when they get to a certain age, we do have to replace them. There's no kind of, if it's still in good shape, we can stretch that out. We have to, under legislation, replace those. I think it's when they get to 20 years. So we don't have a choice, unfortunately. And again, we're seeing 20% increase in our insurance costs, fuel, diesel, heat, hydro, all the kind of same costs that we're all facing at home, we're facing as a municipality as well. We also increased our transfers to reserve funds by quite a bit in the 2023 budget, which I'll talk a bit more about in a couple slides. So for the 2023 budget, again, we have the community grant program has been budgeted for, and we also have now a cemetery grant policy that was approved by council. We've got our private road grants, which there's two separate streams, one for operating, one for capital, and then the pure allocation amounts that are budgeted annually. Those have actually already been sent out for this year. So just wanted to touch on the financial plan. So the financial plan is now an integral part of what we present to council through the budget process. We're looking at 8-year projection of what our capital costs will be based on our asset management program. So we take all of our asset data. It's all in a big inventory in our software system that keeps track of what condition, what age, and what the replacement cost is estimated to be. And so the main source of funding that we have to pay for that capital over the next 8 years is the money we put to our reserve funds. So what we do is basically trying to capture all of the capital requirements that we're going to have to spend, what money we can anticipate being able to put into those reserve funds, and then what the difference is in looking at having to borrow for certain larger projects. So our 2023 budget included a $440,000 increase to what we put into our reserve funds. Again, this is part of the financial plan, trying to make sure over the next, the Director of Operations and I look at about next 20 to 30 years, but what we present to council is about the next 8 years. And we're trying to make sure we have enough money to sustain all the assets that we currently own. So you can see on this slide, this is a kind of a snapshot of our financial plan from our budget. And the annual capital requirements are in orange. And so our annual contributions to put into the reserve funds are the gray. So you can see really what we're trying to do is get enough money each year annually to be able to pay for the majority of the capital work that needs to be done that year. And right now there's a big gap. And so the straight red line, it's not straight, the red line that kind of dips down in 2028, that's the kind of the huge pot of our capital reserve fund money. You can see right in 2028, we're almost depleting it. So it's a balancing act of trying to get more money out of our operating over into the reserve funds, so we have it to pay for capital. And so that's what the financial plan is helping us do, is kind of a roadmap of how we get to a place where our capital reserves don't go negative, what level of debt council and staff are comfortable borrowing, while making sure that we can keep maintaining and updating our capital assets to provide the services that the township needs to provide. So if asset management, really that is the goal, is to basically minimize the life cycle cost of delivering those infrastructure asset services. So when we're looking at asset management, we're not just looking at how much it costs to buy the asset, we're looking at how much it costs to buy, install, implement, how much it costs to maintain it over the life of the asset, how long is it going to last. When we look at, for example, our roads, our Director of Operations now has a whole plan of how we maintain the roads over the life of the road. So instead of just letting the road kind of fail, get to a point where it has to be totally replaced, we do a number of other processes to the roads to extend their useful life. So we're looking at that total cost of over the life of the asset, trying to be as efficient as we can. And it's the same with our facilities. Unfortunately, we got a little behind on maintaining our facilities. So we're now spending a lot of money on the facilities to try to kind of get them back up to where they should be. And we've done building condition assessments to identify what the issues are in our facilities, and now looking again at trying to plan that out over the next 8 to 10 years to make sure we have the money to pay for the maintenance and repairs on the facilities. So when it comes to asset management, really what we're trying to do is provide as much service as we can, but with costs that are affordable, because obviously we'd love to be able to provide more services, but with more services comes higher tax rate, higher need for revenues. So it's all about a kind of a balancing act, and that's trying to make sure we're providing, obviously there's some services that are mandated or legislated that we have to provide, like safe roads or safe drinking water or different things like that. But then also what's affordable for the residents in terms of the tax rates and how we can raise revenue, as well as managing our risk. So we need to make sure that we can maintain the assets because we don't want to cause any issues or risk for residents, staff, or any other stakeholders that might be, whether it's driving our roads, using our facilities, going into our parks, whatever that might be. So. Asset management is an ongoing kind of living, breathing document system. We are constantly trying to update our asset data so that we have because everything's constantly changing, costs are constantly increasing. If we get better data on different assets, if we go out and look at play structure and realize that it's failing, we bring that data back, put it in our asset management program. Maybe a play structure we thought could last another 5 years. We know from looking at it or wear and tear, it actually going to need to be replaced in 3. We feed all that data in. So again, when we're looking at that financial plan, we could say, what do we need to be able to fund for the next 8 to 10 years, and do we have enough money to do that? And when we present to council, we're presenting based on all of that data and information in our system so that we can make the best decisions we can. And then that also is helping feed our financial plan, which again is kind of our longer term view of how we build our budgets. And this is kind of just another graph of showing that our asset management really is integrated with kind of how, as an organization, now we look at really every aspect of our business especially as it relates to like our operations, our parks, everything. We're really trying to ensure that we're taking an integrated corporate approach, and that different staff are working together to manage the data so that we can all make the best decisions we can. Any questions on asset management? I could talk about it all day. But.
Well, and some of you might be wondering why we're talking about asset management at this table, but we promise you it does have a purpose. Unfortunately, this is the fun stuff that council gets to deal with all the time, but what sometimes it doesn't always translate to the greater masses as to why we may let a road go 1 or 2 years past its prime because we know we're going to replace it rather than repair it, or using the play structure, same sort of thing that we are trying very hard to make sure that we're prepared financially for it rather than having to do massive tax hikes. In the past, we have had very low tax increases, and that's been great overall. Having said that, it's great for the taxpayer in general, but it doesn't serve the taxpayer over the long term because realistically, we might have to make a larger contribution at a later date, which is we're trying to spread that out over a longer period of time. Is there anybody up on the screen that has any questions for the treasurer in regards to that? I don't have any hands up at this point. So if you want to continue on, and then we'll go from there.
Thanks. So part of the reason, that I'm going through all of the information on how we do asset management is because when it comes to budgeting now, that's really what's driving our budget. When it comes to capital and operating, is we're using our asset management plan to determine what is included in the budget. And so we've talked a little bit with some of you, I think already, but as we look at budgets now, we're trying to look more forward ahead. It's not just kind of a 1 year look now. It's looking out beyond 1 year, looking out 3 to 5 years, looking out 8 to 10 years on capital. So as we talk about how we incorporate, what this group might want to include in budgets, it's becoming increasingly important for us to try to make sure that we provide you with kind of the big picture, how we're developing the budget, because we need to be able to look a little bit longer forward than just getting a request this year. And trying to incorporate this year, we would like to be able to look longer term with you as well. So if there's certain items that you would like incorporated into the budget or certain areas you would like to see work done in the township, we'll be trying to fit that in and align that with the strategic plan and the asset management plan that we've already now built our budget around. And so trying to make sure that we can then incorporate the peer groups, input into that budget process in a meaningful way means not necessarily getting it just this year, but if there's something that like a bench on a sidewalk, if we know we're going to tear up that road and redo that sidewalk, obviously we're not going to put that bench in. It might be a conversation around, well, we know that we're going to plan to do this in 3 years or something. So it's having a little bit more proactive conversation around what the group would like to see and how we can try to work to align that within what we're already planning in terms of the strategic plan or asset management plan and how those can work together. That makes sense.
I might just add to that. For example, the viewing platform out in Lyndhurst, that is something that the locals had fundraised for a while ago, but it was sort of stalled. There was a number of things, conservation and Conservation Authority and working with our operations people to talk about not just the fact that it needed to be built now, but how that fit into the plan over the long term. Because what I've learned through this asset management process is that if an item costs $30,000 to implement today, it's going to cost $5,000 in 5 years to replace rotted boards, or it's going to need to be painted or what have you. But that also in 25 years, it needs to be replaced totally. So it needs to be put into the long-term financial plan. So what we want to avoid are surprises going down the road. So making sure that what you guys would like to see happen in your respective communities, it fits in with what you want and what we can do over the long term. So it just helps us plan, but also helps us achieve the goals that the communities want to have at the same time. Because often I think in the past we've looked at smaller projects, immediate things, and those are fine as well. But if there was a bigger project, something, a splash pad in Sealy's Bay, it's if we wanted to put that in, what does that might be a request you make today, but something that requires planning over the next 5 years to 10 years. And it's not responsible of us to say, okay, let's make it happen this day. It's like, okay, we make a decision now, but what are the consequences over that? Maintaining it, replacing it over another 30 years, what have you. So we're trying to take more of a proactive approach in the decisions that we're making and asking that the groups, when they come to us, keep that in mind so that we can both benefit from the decisions that we're making. So, is there any other? No hands up. Okay. So the special event permit, are you tackling that or is that Tracy?
Well, we're just going to touch on it. And if there's questions, and I'll probably need Tracy's help. I just wanted to mention here that we have updated the application form that's on the website, and Tracy has developed a reference guide to go with the application form. So we're hoping that that's going to be helpful for event organizers. And if you do have any questions or concerns, to please reach out to us and we'd be happy to assist. Same with facility booking. I just wanted to touch on, we've sent out some communications around this as well, but we do have a new facility use policy. We've updated our municipal alcohol policy and done some other updates. So again, just kind of a reminder. And if you have questions or concerns, we're happy to get your feedback on that as well. For communications, just again, following back up with the groups, when the groups we were able to meet with, we asked and encouraged everybody to please fill out our survey. So we do appreciate everybody who did complete the survey. We've used the results. Now we're trying to work on a new communication tool. The results are kind of small here on your screen, but if you do have questions, again, actually Tracy would be better than me to answer those questions on the results. But we do appreciate everybody's input, and we are working now to take that feedback as we look at longer term strategies around communications for the township. And one of those strategies is we're looking at what we previously had as our bi-monthly Township Times newsletter. We're going to convert over to a quarterly document that will be mailed out. We heard loud and clear that there's a lot of residents in the township that continue to want in print format, not on a app or on the website, which we can understand and appreciate, especially with some areas of the township not having great internet. So it is going to be a print form. We are looking to enhance a little bit what we put into that Township Times document. We'd like to actually work with the peer groups to see if we could get content from each group, looking for kind of content from each, village or area, anything that's happening, anything you want to communicate with the township in terms of events, fundraising you're doing, anything really that you wanted to put into the newsletter that we can put out there for you. It will also include all of our recreation programming, include a lot of the things that we've included before, but also we're looking at providing some more information maybe on what's happening in council meetings, as well as stuff like the website or the landfill hours and hazardous waste days, and just kind of a bit more, I guess, well-rounded information about the township, not just directly related to kind of recreation programming and so on. So we were looking for your feedback, and we'll be reaching out to see if we can hopefully get some content from each of you on a quarterly basis going forward. We would really appreciate your thoughts on that.
You want to do this or you want me to do it? So peer committee mandate, one of the main things that when we were looking at the fact that we haven't been together for an extended period of time, but business continued on. And we currently have not put together an economic development committee at this point for a couple of reasons. We haven't done our community improvement plans yet. And the last committee of council for economic development really wanted to do things that we weren't able to help them do. And so until we sort of got a clear picture of what we wanted to accomplish or what our goals were, we just sort of put a hiatus on it. So the peer committee, why am I blanking on so the whole reason that we exist as a group is to obviously put together our heads as a group of individuals throughout all corners of the township, but it also speaks to economic drivers as well. So it's certainly not just specific to local groups and the community groups that are very valuable and very active within their defined areas. So part of what we expect from the committee is obviously to provide advice and help us implement and approve some actions that you might want to move forward on. We hope that you help us develop a unified vision and sort of goal setting, which I don't think we did under the last term of council. And for that, I apologize, because perhaps that was up to me. But we didn't actually review the mandate in the last term of council. So that's why we're doing it now. We obviously, as this committee, report annually to council, and it allows us to communicate both ways. So us giving you information, you guys giving us, and advising your people back in your respective communities, which is a very valuable tool, because you can send out lots of newsletters, but unless people are actually talking, it doesn't always disseminate down. So the next slide. So the peer committee membership, as you can see, this is the terms of reference for the committee, and these are the groups that are supposed to be as part of this group. Today we're missing Lyndhurst, the Thousand Islands Chamber. I think Mr. Davies, are you here for the Sealy's Bay Chamber? Or are you here for LRC?
Yes, I am.
Okay, for the chamber. So the Sealy's Bay Lyndhurst Chamber is here. And we have Wendy for the Rockport Development Group. And we have Barb here for Lansdowne Association. Spara, obviously, we've got our standard people, which is great. But do we need to have a committee to do this? Or are we looking to having more of a informal rather than having motions and all of that kind of stuff? Is it something that we want to continue?
We're not
to
there,
leave in
are
us?
we?
Oh, we still have Ken on the line. Ken, do you want
Yeah,
to?
sorry, I got a quick question for you. I don't
Sure.
see I don't see Lyndhurst Sealy's Bay Chamber of Commerce on there anywhere.
Well, and
But one of the problems is that I have attended a couple of these meetings in the past, and we are not a voting member of the peer committee.
And so we'll be addressing that as well as far as what the mandate is and how we want to move forward. I guess he muted himself. Okay, we'll just.
Yes, I said, okay, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry, we got cut off there.
No problem.
Okay, so direction forward is the next slide. So do we want to change the composition of the committee and change the change in mandate for what we want to do? And a working group provides a little more flexibility. And as far as frequency of meetings, because I know we haven't had a set date for meetings. We've kind of had meetings as we've needed to. So today is really about getting some feedback from the committee and what you'd like to see moving forward, because to be truthful, we're willing to go whatever way the group wants to go, but we want to make sure that we're not having meetings for the sake of having meetings. We don't want to waste your time or staff's time or what have you, because we're willing to listen to either way. So if there's any input in regards to that, we're open for that now. Does anybody have any suggestions, comments, queries?
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask a question.
Sure, go ahead, Ken.
What exactly do you want to see out of this committee? I mean, I know it's for partnership for economic enhancement and revitalization. Is it something that will also take into account your economic development, or is that completely separate?
Well, this is part of the reason why we've put a hiatus on that group, because we don't want to have duplication of effort either. Having an official committee of council requires a clerk here, agendas, minutes, all of that goes along with an official committee. A working group still could have staff attending, but it wouldn't require motions, passing of motions, and minute taking to quite the same detail. But really we received the feedback from this committee, from the council, and it's always been valued and appreciated. So I don't think that changes if it's a working group. For example, we have a working group regarding environmental waste landfill capacity. There's been a working group with some counselors. It's not an official committee of council. However, ideas and paths forward has come forward to council from the working group. It just doesn't require official meetings. Does that make sense to everybody? So we're open to have it either way. We just wanted to make sure that we weren't just having meetings going forward because we were just having meetings, because it's what we'd always done.
Through your worship. So I think the feedback that we heard as well, staff, when we went and met with some of the associations, some of the peer groups, was that sometimes it was challenging to have enough people show up to these meetings to have quorum. So that, I guess that was one of the other reasons. I think that we're just, I guess as staff, I wanted to make sure we understand what the peer group is looking for in having these meetings. Like obviously there's things through budget and so on that, we're looking to work together on, but what other things can we be working together to help collaborate on, whether it's, things that peer groups want to bring forward, or, obviously it's a good avenue for us to try to provide some sort of communications around different things that we're doing in the township. But are there specific things that you think this group, could be doing better, or that maybe the focus has changed, like the terms of reference that we referred to in the slides it appears a bit outdated. So we're just trying to maybe take an opportunity to refresh what do people want to see? Do you want a formal meeting? But that does require that we have a commitment to make sure we have quorum. Otherwise, we can't make decisions anyway. Would a working group work easier for different topics and a little more flexibility around setting the meetings and not requiring a quorum? So really, we're hoping to get your feedback as well as what it is you're looking for from these meetings.
Feedback appreciated at this point.
Well, I can give you some feedback. As I said, I've attended a couple of your meetings, and I remember one in particular was spent most of the meeting discussing what color flowers are going to be used in the different communities around the area. It was also one of those meetings where we didn't have enough people to be able to actually have quorum, so basically nothing was accomplished. So if you want some sort of feedback from me, it would be a working group would be much better. Because then you wouldn't have to worry about having too many people away on vacation or visiting relatives or not being able to attend the meeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Julie here.
Oh, go ahead.
I agree. I personally have never attended a peer meeting on behalf of FAB, although others have. And I agree that a more informal, I'm a fan of more informal structures. The only question I would have is around accountability. So if there is a working group that is making recommendations, what is the is there a different way to build in accountability from the municipality to follow through with the recommendations?
So speaking to accountability, as I mentioned, even with a working group, we would have one of our staff members attend, and any ideas that needed any sort of funding would have to come through as a notice of motion, and we could have a counselor bring forward a notice of motion utilizing that sort of structure. But I guess there wouldn't be a formal accountability as the committee requires formal motions and formal approvals, that sort of thing. I guess, and we can always revert back to an actual official committee of council if an informal situation isn't working to the group's desire. So grabbing for the microphone.
So it's Wendy here.
I've got you, Wendy, next. We're just going to listen to Sabar at this point. I don't think so.
So speaking on behalf of Sabara, we actually had this discussion when you ladies visited us, and it was kind of the idea from us was that we would probably rather do a working group,
okay,
to find it more effective, and more formality sometimes can be make people clam up. So probably the working group would be better.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And Wendy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think at times peer was very helpful because when you're in a room together, you're exchanging ideas and we're finding, with what everybody is doing. It sort of ran out of its usefulness when it got so big, and then we didn't have enough people, and then we couldn't make decisions. So I guess in pre-peer, I guess I go back probably further than anybody. We had the village groups that got together, and we were meeting even though we weren't part of peer or part of the township. And I think that's where the impetus came to make us a committee of council, so we'd be more interactive with the staff. This year, I found it very useful to have representatives of the township come to an RDG meeting where we could actually talk about Rockport and RDG and what the plans were, what we were looking for and what the township was looking for. I'd like to understand where the strategic plans, we each did a strategic plan for our own area. And I'd like to know where they fit in all of the planning, because the money is limited and understandably so. And we have long-term plans within our strategic plans. And those, there was a lot of work went into creating those plans. And so I think as a peer representative and representing the village here, what's happening with that strategic plan and where it fits in everything is what's really important to us. So I don't think meeting every month is necessary, but keeping that line of communications open and learning about what's going on in the other villages. Otherwise you get very insular and just what you're doing. So I'm not quite sure how that helps, but I think
So, sorry, Wendy, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
that's okay. I'm thinking that I hate to see us not get together. I hate to see people get together and waste time and not be able to make decisions that mean anything. And I really think the line of communication with the people in the township staff that are able to help us and work with us to achieve goals or tell us why we can't achieve goals is really important. So I don't know how you achieve that. I don't see it as economic development, but maybe I know it contributes to the economic well-being of the area, but I don't see it as economic development. I see it as continuous and constant improvement and making us attractive and functional for our own area. So I don't think it was working, and I'm not sure that I know what the answer is.
So Wendy, would it be fair to say that a working group at this point, you would be okay with that as long as we still have the line of communication with a staff member there?
Yeah.
More of an informal discussion, but that anything that needed to move forward, we could bring forward through a notice of motion with one of the counselors?
As long as we have a way to bring it forward. I'm not quite sure I understand how you would bring that forward.
We could also do an staff reports. We could also have the staff member who speaks to or works with the working group can bring forward an information report or a staff report with action items attached to it. So say the peer group got together as a working group and you decided you wanted to put benches, specific benches that identified with the township in all the settlement areas, and there needed to be an overall budget of $30,000, let's say. So a staff would bring that report forward, identifying the group had made a decision collectively and we're in support of doing this, and that the staff recommends that the next budget include a $30,000 line item. And that's how it should move forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to give it a try.
Okay. And how does Lansdowne feel?
As Wendy mentioned before, Wendy, I don't know if you can see me or not, but it's Donna here. We met as a group previously, just the 4 village groups, and we shared ideas. It was wonderful. So we got to see what everyone else is doing and how they're doing it and so on. Then when we changed into this group, it was even better because we had the mayor in office here. We had the clerk to write down all the information. And we also had the staff here to help us as well. And as Wendy mentioned, tell us what we can do and what we can't do and why. I see a great benefit in having this group together, whether it be a working group or a committee of council. I think perhaps maybe the working group would suffice, as long as we have the accountability of what we want to see happen, go to council and be approved or disapproved, or whatever.
Okay. So did you want to add anything, Barb, or you're good? Barb's here for Laffer as well. Donna's here for the Agricultural Society. So thank you for both being here. So it seems that the consensus around the table is that a working group might be a way to move forward, and we can try it. We can always revert back to the official committee of council. I think the main thing that the treasurer pointed out was that when we struggle to have attendance, depending on time of year, what's happening, if we don't have quorum, then it stalls things, and then everybody's frustrated that the ones who have shown up to give their time, and it doesn't actually move forward. So Tracy, I think you've met everybody here. So Tracy Holland is our communications and community liaison person. She is the one that is running the show, making sure that we're doing a better job as far as communicating. And of course, we're experiencing some of those growing pains as we shift and change. But again, thank you for everybody who filled out that survey. But I know that she's very dedicated to working with different people within the community you have at your previous job. And I believe she'll be a great asset to the group in general. And you won't have to listen to me drone on. Not to say that I wouldn't be part of those meetings. I would absolutely love to continue to have those meetings and be there to listen to what the concerns are from the respective groups. If not me, one of the members of council. And then obviously we're holding Tracy's feet to the fire to make sure that anything that comes out of the working group scenario does come forward in a staff report if it needs action. So have I summarized that enough? Wendy, is your hand still up? Go ahead. Oh, can't hear you. There. Oh, no, can't hear you. You muted. There we go.
Sorry, it's back up. I did lower it. The premise before was that the chair of each group was to attend, and if they couldn't, they were to have a designated backup. I think that got lost somewhere, but I always had a designated backup who should attend because it's a waste of time for people if there isn't somebody there who can communicate and carry back and forth. So if we're going to, even in a working group, I think having a dedicated backup is important because the information needs to go back.
I very much agree. Okay, so based on that, so the next item on the agenda is the administration report SR-077-23 partnerships for economic development, economic enhancement and revitalization peer committee composition. The recommendation is that the peer committee recommends to council that the peer committee be dissolved to form a peer working group. So I need a mover and a seconder for that. If anybody would like to move that. Okay. Seconder. Well, Wendy, we'll ask for a seconder if you just want to raise your hand. I'm going to put you down as a seconder. Okay. So I think we sort of had the discussion before the motion was on the floor based on consensus. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. And it's carried. Okay. So with peer committee roundtable, that's usually where we just go around and talk about the things that we're doing in our respective communities and just let everybody know. So I'll start with you, Donna, and then we'll go up to the screen after we get through the members that are here in chambers. Okay.
Yes.
I have to leave. I have to leave in a couple of minutes. That's why I put my hand up.
Do you want her to go first?
We'll let you go. We'll let you go first then, Wendy. Go ahead.
I didn't mean that. I just wanted you to know I was going to disappear.
So if you'd like to give us an update from Rockport.
Okay. There's a there's people coming to my door. There's a fundraiser. Come on in. Okay, I'm on the computer. There's a fundraising dinner on May 5th, where that's what we're having the meeting about right now. It's fundraising to help with beautification of Rockport and the watering of the flowers. That's the primary reason. And the secondary reason is we're having music nights on the custom stock, and we've in June, July, and August. So I'll be sending that information in the third Wednesday of June, the third Wednesday of July, and the third Wednesday of August. These are a free event that we have on the customs where we bring in music and people bring their lawn chairs and sit around at the park and listen to music for a couple hours. So those are the things that are going on. Nothing major, just all small events. The other big thing is not RDG, it's the Rec Hall. And June 25th is the annual Schoolhouse Jam at the Rockport Rec Hall.
Okay, thanks so much. Sounds like you've got a rowdy group of individuals headed your way.
That was just one person, believe it or not.
Was it Janice or Phyllis? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay, so I got to sign off. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Wendy.
Bye-bye.
Sorry, Donna, we'll go back to you.
Okay, the Lands and Agricultural Society has been working ever since the day after our fair in 2022, as most groups do with their events. Our fair is going to be held on July 21st to the 23rd. We have lots of new things, exciting things happening. Our theme for the fair is apple pies and family ties. Then in August the 19th, we're going to have our second show and shine for classic cars. And that will be in conjunction with the hopefully another village-wide yard sale, which Lansdowne was just hopping last summer when we had both events on the same day. So it was really interesting. Other than that, we've been sending out our sponsorship letters. So if anyone out there is interested in being a sponsor for the Lansdowne Fair, you can send me an email and I will help you out with that information. So I guess we're off to a good start and hopefully we have good weather. Well, last year was a record-breaking year. I think it was after COVID and everybody wanted to get out and do something, but we ran out of wristbands on Saturday. It was just packed. So we had a good time. Thank you.
It was a good day. I worked the gates that day. So as far as Laffer is concerned, Laffer has a plant sale coming up, I believe. Plant sale?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that we're only doing the plant sale every other year, which means not this year. We did it last year. Like, beg your pardon? Garden tour. Oh, beg your pardon, the garden tour, not the plant tour. The garden tour every other year. Last year was a big success. We're not doing it this year. We're going to do it next year. At least that's the plan so far, every other year. I think it's a great opportunity for people to show off their spot and then gain lots and lots of incentive from each other. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, we're going to keep doing that, I think.
So when is the plant sale?
It's in Lansdowne. Yeah, when are you going to do it? The plant tour?
No, the plant sale.
Plant sale. Oh, the plant sale this year, May 20.
May
Can you tell I'm new at this, guys? So yeah, hey,
You're fine.
It's all good.
But May 20, we're doing our annual plant sale, which is terrific because we're beginning to get a name for having plants that are a little different from elsewhere. So it's we're getting people coming from further and further away, which is really, really nice. And we're already off to a great start. We've already got our first batch of plants in ready for the year. So we're going home, we're getting going.
Great. Thank you. Svara.
So we, flowers are on our agenda as well. So we have those big canoes that need to be filled and we've been talking about that as well as the watering. We've also started a sponsorship program for the hanging baskets on the main street. We did it last year and we've been able to get enough sponsorship to have, we think, double the hanging baskets for this year as well. We are also purchasing signs for the two intersections or entrances to the village, because it's hard to know that we're there with that little wee tiny little silly space sign that the Department of Highways puts up. So we're also investigating having a porch fest. We're just kind of investigating at the moment. We've got a few people going out, making sure that they see some of the porch fests that are around so that we'll do it right when it comes around. And we have Red Canoe Fest coming up in June. So that's all I can think of right now.
Thank you very much. Ken, can I call on you for an update from the chamber?
You certainly may. First of all, we have our annual meet and greet, which will be on April the 19th. We'll have our mayor will be there, as well as our mayor from the neighboring township, MPPs and MP, and also Ann Weir from the Economic Development will be there, as well as Jeanette Johnson from small business in Brockville. We are having our Rural Community Expo from June the 4th from 11 till 4, and that'll be at Furnace Falls Farms. We are continuously working. The chamber has taken over the Lyndhurst Turkey Fair, and so we are continuously out there looking for volunteers, and we would really appreciate it if the township could help us out with sending some notices out, letting people know that we're looking for people to help out. It's a huge event.
Oh, did we lose you, Ken?
We expect
there we
over 5,000 people to be there for a single day, and it takes an awful lot of communication and effort to put this all together and make sure it happens properly. That'll be the third Saturday in September. The Chamber of Commerce is also taking over the Santa Claus Parade, and unfortunately I don't have the date for that, but we're also taking care of that. And we've got a very active group going on here with the chamber. We're now up to about 80 people that are now 80 businesses that are now members for the Lyndhurst and Sealy's Bay Chamber of Commerce. And there's a few other activities that are going on. I don't really have them in front of me at this moment in time.
Okay, well, be sure to share any additional dates or times or any activities that you'd like to see so that we make sure that they're in the next upcoming newsletter if it meets the deadline.
I do believe that there is a sidewalk sale going on Victoria Day weekend. That's I just don't have that information in front of me.
Okay, Tracy's making a note, so. And then last but not least is Julie.
I'll try and be really fast because I have to leave in 2 minutes. So as you know, we have nature camps. They start up the first week of July. So I think it's going to be July 4th this year. Mostly Lemons Bay's full. Kendricks Park is always looking for more kids. We're hosting Youth Climate Summit in November, on November 14th. And we're actually hosting it in Kempville because we need a venue that's large enough to accommodate 100 or more people, like 120. So if there's venues in the township that you know of in the future that we could host this event, we're definitely open to that. We are kind of wrapping up our tourism project, but we're looking to continue it. So we have opportunities for businesses to sign on to our pledge and get on the website and join a story map, which is basically an itinerary for visitors. And then more technical side of things, we're also working on a conservation project where we can assess conservation, like municipal lands for conservation, and see if they qualify for this sort of complicated screening that we're doing throughout the biosphere. But that's coming soon.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that the nature camps are filling up. And we'll be sure to put some stuff on our social media to get the word out, because I know that parents are always looking for great ways for their kids to spend their summer. So as far as the next items, and I realize you have to go, Julie, and that's perfectly fine. We still have quorum, so I think we're okay with 4 members. Staff update. Do you want to provide anything, Tracy, or? Okay, I think we're good. Well, I guess we covered it more earlier in the meeting. As far as a council update, Councillor Jameson, would you like to bring anything forward? He's like, nope, I'm good. Just to say thank you to our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, Kate, for bringing us a good budget this year. Asset management has definitely made it simpler for us to make decisions now and for the future. We ended up with an overall tax increase of 4.6, including the county. County was, I think, 5.89, and then we were 4.2. So that, along with the school board, brought us to the 4.6, which is still below inflation in light of all the rising costs of everything else. As far as adding something regarding the county council, there is a new direct marketing organization that has been created by the county called the Thousand Islands Rideau Canal Waterway. So it's basically looking at ways to promote tourism throughout the whole of the United Counties. So Ann Weir is going to be at the Sealy's Bay Chamber. If you're looking for more information on that, I would encourage you all to attend so that you could speak to her about the initiatives. They're looking at doing some foodie tours as well as fresh baked adventures, I think they're called. And so they'll be looking at ways, and it could be, I know there used to be a garden tour up closer to, it was more centered around the Rideau Trail up near Chafee's Locks and stuff. But perhaps another idea for that could be in conjunction with our garden tour as well. So in this particular area. As far as that's concerned, we're losing our treasurer. I'll better put that out there. So Kate's been a great addition to our staff here, and it's put us way further ahead with the asset management process that we now follow. But Kate had a wonderful opportunity that she couldn't turn down, and we're really sorry to see her go. We're really hopeful we'll find a wonderful replacement. And in the interim, Tracy's going to pick up the slack. She's going to get her calculator out, and we're going to be fine. Kidding. Other than that, I think that's basically it. I think the firefighters are having a bullhead supper in the next couple of months as well, or they were talking about it. But anyways, if there's anything more, we'll definitely have it on our website. Next item on the agenda is other business. So flower watering, community improvement programs, water levels, affordable housing, housing development actions, and street cleaning timeframe and washrooms. So who wants to tackle all of that? Go ahead.
Thank you. So, sorry, I don't have the agenda and my notes up at the same time, so you might have to refresh me if I missed something, but thanks. So flower watering, they're hoping to do twice a week flower watering. This is from operations. Street sweeping will be completed by the long weekend in May. And the washrooms in the parks will be open for the long weekend in May. And Dave's still looking into, this is more for Wendy. Unfortunately, she's not on the call anymore, but we're looking into possibly working with Rockport Boat Line about using their washrooms down there too. So that's still in progress. Water levels, I'm afraid I don't have anything if you do, but.
So I do, in regards to the water levels on the St. Lawrence River, I'm actually attending a meeting with Minister Piccini, who's part of the Great Lakes Consortium on Thursday. So I'm headed to Toronto tomorrow night to participate in an all-day meeting with Minister Piccini, and I will be happy to report back on any further information that I might glean from that meeting.
Okay, thank you. And on the community improvement plan, so we actually have a report going to committee of the whole tonight, looking for approval from council to engage a consultant to start the community improvement plan. So it is work that's hoping that's going to be undertaken and completed this year, that the recommendations would be implemented next year. And that's kind of just a quick update from our Director of Planning. So if there's more detailed questions, so I can take them away and get answers.
I would just add to the community improvement plan, it is imperative that we have every bit of input that all of you can provide, members of this committee and other general community members, in regards to how we might further better our communities such that they're more attractive to other people to come to live here, but also possibly businesses who want to relocate here as well.
Thanks. Yeah. And sorry, Marnie did mention that too. So the first phase will be basically looking at consulting with community groups and other stakeholders, which will obviously involve all the peer groups. And then affordable housing and housing development actions. I don't really have an update on that.
So as of today, I participated in an announcement with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. There was a 40% increase to the allocation for homelessness prevention. And so we're up to $3 million now in the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. Why is this important? Obviously, with COVID happening and a lot of people selling their homes or selling rental properties, looking to cash in on the increased values, it's really put, it was already tenuous to begin with prior to COVID. There was already a shortage of affordable housing, but the COVID increase in real estate prices just put that much more pressure on it, because if landlords didn't want to deal with tenants or deal with whatever that goes along with it, maintenance of buildings, they just decided to get out, and they did. And they didn't always come back into the rental pool, which is part of the challenge, because they can, when you're selling a property, as long as you give proper notice, you can take over the property as a vacant dwelling. So now with this new money, it's expected that we have something called the by name list that exists. So if you know of anybody within your communities that are struggling with homelessness or finding housing, it is imperative that you let the counties know or have them reach out to someone in the county's housing department. And the reason for that is we know there's a lot of invisible homelessness that happens in our rural communities. People who are couch surfing, living in trailers. We had people living in a boat in one other jurisdiction for a short period of time, right down to potentially using tents on vacant land somewhere. So if you know somebody who's struggling in your community, or you hear about it, please have them reach out. There are funds available and temporary shelter available through the county's program. And the difficulty is, I think the statistic was we had 106 people who are on the by name list, but we know there's many more people who aren't on that list that should be, or somebody who's in jeopardy of losing their housing, especially women and children. If they're coming from a domestic situation, there are other assistance that we can put them in touch with. That additional help is there. So the goal for affordable housing is that we've got to find a way to put more units up, or transfer current homeownership into putting in basement suites or in-law suites. And the township has made changes to their planning rationale, excuse me, planning approvals to allow for secondary suites, whether they be attached or detached. And so if you are looking to do that on your property, our planning department is really happy to speak to you about that, because any way that, even if somebody's older and can't manage the bigger home and you'd like to put an addition on for your mother, your aunt, a friend of the family, then there are also grants associated with those at the county level, which we can put you in touch with them. But if they don't need a full house, they could put it on the market, or it could be turned into a rental or what have you. So there's all these creative ways we're trying to address this very complex and complicated problem. We just need more homes built, and that's going to take time. And you already dealt with washrooms and street cleaning, so I think we're good. Okay. So unless there's anything else that anybody has to add, go ahead, Donna.
I just have one one little announcement. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
If Barb doesn't mind, I'd like to talk about the barn quilts for Luffer.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
We have 8 completed, and this sort of ties in with the other villages as well. I know that there are some in Sealy's Bay that are being done. Linter's got us going on this project. And I also have someone actually from the barn, the Rockport barn in Rockport. They have sent me an email quite interested in creating some. So we have some different ones in the areas. We have 8 more that are going to be made, designed and painted this spring. And we'll be doing it hopefully at the fairgrounds. The other 2 things are questions. I have a question about the community improvement program. I'm just wondering if you have a timeline, like we're starting with input from the community groups. Where do you see this, like, where do you see it being finished and put into place?
Go ahead.
So yeah, it needs to get approval from council tonight to actually engage the consultant. So we don't really have a definite timeline yet, but the plan is that the consultants work with the plan completed by the end of this year.
Okay.
Then it would then we'd have to build into next year's budget, whatever the recommendations were, we'd have to build that into 2024 budget. So I know that consulting with community groups would be in the first stage. So it'll go tonight to get final approval next Monday. And then the director of planning would have to work to basically negotiate the final agreement. And, what are we, April?
We're approving it tonight. So
Sorry.
tonight's council.
Yeah, sorry,
It's all
I'm
right.
confused. I'm tired. Sorry. I was thinking it was community of the whole, so I apologize.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
So
for
we'll be
correcting.
approving that. So as far as timeline's concerned, we want to meet for next year's, this needs to be done so that we can inform next year's budget.
Yeah,
So it'll
sorry.
be done late fall.
This coming late fall then?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And being implemented then in 2024. Okay. The second question I have, and my last, I'll be quiet. Wayfaring signs. Signs and flowers were always on our peer agenda. They just went on automatically. So I'm just kind of wondering where they happen to be at this time. Where are we sitting with them? Has anything been done? The wayfaring sign, the ones, we washrooms in this
Washrooms, that's
direction
right.
and so on and so on.
Yeah.
I know that I was consulted by one of the previous directors of Public Works,
Mhm.
but locations and whatnot. So can you give us any kind of an idea what's going on there?
Yeah, so actually we're meeting on those signs this week. The director of operations and Tracy and I are going to be looking at that. Yeah, so if actually, I'm not sure, do you have an email from like that just wondering if we could get your input again to make sure we actually have the final. If not, that's okay.
I don't have any information. The director of Public Works at the time, and I really can't remember who it was. It could have been.
So
he-
we're trying to, we're trying to finish that project up. We did purchase a number of signs. So now we need to basically figure out where to put them and what to put on them. So if you do have any suggestions, if you could email Tracy or I with even just, rough points of anything in particular you think we should point out. And
Yeah, it's Tracy here. So I did find a list, but it seems to be the list from Sealy's Bay of their sign, their wayfind.
Their wish
signs,
list.
of what signs that they wanted, directional signs in that. It didn't seem to have Lansdowne
Or Rockport.
or Rockport, but I'll look a bit further. We do have a meeting, so, the signs are, the posts are there and everything. It's just a matter of putting stuff on there. I may reach out to you just in case, Donna, if there's an email that you have, or if you can note which were the directional signs that were significant.
Okay. I know that there's some of the signs have to be placed on county property. So they had to get permission from the county that was some of the issues that I was
Okay.
trying to deal with at the time.
yeah, that's why we're dealing with Dave Holiday, the director of operations, because he's going to be able to help us figure out if it's county, or if it's whatever we need to do in terms of those approvals as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I have Ken's hand up. Ken, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that, I wanted to make sure that the chamber was added to the working group for the peer
Absolutely.
committee.
I have the nodding of the clerk's head, so we'll make sure that you're on the list.
Well,
Even though you've been dedicated up until now, we'll make sure you're on the official list going forward.
thank you very much. Appreciate that.
No problem. Are there any comments, other comments or questions? Seeing none, then the next thing is the motion to adjourn. So I need a mover and a seconder. John is like, yep. I'm going to put Barb down as a seconder just because I can. That the peer committee meeting adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed?